Going on, everybody? Bear with me as I'm trying to get this antiquated laptop up and running and not blaring at me. How's it going, Heather? How are you? Figured I had to be down in the fish room this morning anyway, and got the day off, snowing outside, so figured I'd do a live stream. I haven't done a live stream probably since, oh geez, I don't even think I had 500 subscribers back then. It's just hard for me to find the free time to not be interrupted by kiddos or other things going on. How's it going, Carla? How are you? Viola, good to see you. Thanks for joining. First time ever early to a live stream. Yeah, I don't end up catching too many live streams. I actually don't have nearly as much time to sit and watch YouTube as I used to. I try to catch what I can, but you know, live streams, for me to sit down and watch a stream and be sitting around for, you know, any amount of time, it just doesn't usually happen. What's going on, Tom? Taking another day off, or are you watching while playing with a skid steer? One more day off. Nice. Good for you. In my fish room, I feed typically 2 to 3 times a day. 2 at a minimum, 3 if I happen to be around in the middle of the day. Most of these guys I'm trying to power feed and grow and get bigger as soon as possible. So I tend to feed more often smaller feedings. They tend to make use of more of the food that way, as opposed to, I found with one big feeding, they would gorge themselves, and then a lot of it would pass through the system very quickly. You'd end up with more waste, and they wouldn't actually get as much out of the food. So my thought process is more smaller feedings. So when I wake up in the morning, if I have time before the kids go off to school, I'll feed first thing in the morning. If not, I'll feed before I head out for the day. And then I'll feed later in the evening, again, at a minimum. And if I'm around midday, I'll feed then as well, too. And technically right now this is kind of late for me. This is like, for my time, I'm almost 10 o'clock in the morning for me. So usually they're already fed by 7 or 8 o'clock, typically. What's going on, Laminar Flow? Haven't talked to you in a while. How's things going, buddy? away for 2 weeks. Hopefully, hopefully that was for good reasons. Hopefully you're taking a fun vacation or something. Good morning down the wormhole. How are you? Wife kept everything alive. Good. Good to hear. That's always a plus. Any time spent away from our tanks, no matter what kind of tank you have, it can be nerve-wracking, you know, to have somebody else taking care of it and not know the subtle nuances of, you know, how much is too much food, you know, what equipment to look out for, especially with salt water. Nothing fun. Oh, sorry to hear that. And Viola, once a day isn't a bad thing. For a lot of tanks where you're just maintaining and you have, you know, some pet fish and you just want them to be happy and healthy and to have a clean tank, once a day is totally fine. But again, for what I'm doing with trying, you know, doing a breeding program with guppies and other things like that, multiple times a day is preferential for me. So. For most people at their home aquariums, I usually say once a day is plenty. So you're not doing a bad thing. You're fine. See you later, Laminer. Thanks for stopping by. Carla, what all do I breed? Well, little bit of this, a little bit of that right now. I guess I started with the Bosemani Rainbows. That was kind of my first thing I really tried breeding here in the fish room. You know, I only set all of this up back, God, I think it was up and running as far as the fish rack I had up and running, or the tank rack rather, sorry. December, I think was my first video I did where it showcased that being up and running. But I had some 20 longs here in front of us that I started with the Bosemani Rainbows, and the first time I tried I was pretty successful. You know, I got probably 50 plus babies in there doing well. So I got those guys. I got all the different guppies that, you know, if you watch one of my fish room tour videos, you can see all the different tanks and different guppies. I got some blood red swordtails, and I have some blue Pinoy angels that I'm raising up as well. They're still easily 6 months out before they're even going to think about it, but that's just one other thing. So, oh, missing some comments here. Hold on. Ah, yes, morning coffee. I could probably use another cup myself. What's going on, Big Texas Tanks? Thanks for joining. Martins, welcome to the live stream, buddy. Reeferhead TV. Oh, okay, right on. Nice. Did I order my guppies online? Some of them I did. I have the Nebula Steels. I picked those guys up online. The Albino Reds I picked up online. The Green Deltas I got from Scowntown Aquatics, as well as the Blood Red Swordtails too. He's another fellow YouTuber on here. Definitely give his channel a try. He's got actually a much bigger fish room than I do. A lot of cool stuff going on in there, so definitely go check out his channel. And then I have a bunch of tanks of what I keep referring to as my mystery guppies. I have an aquarium maintenance and installation business, so I purchase wholesale. So I have a lot of vendors that I deal with. I got a couple out of Florida. I got a couple out of California. Most of my freshwater stuff comes from Florida. Well, the guppies I ended up getting through one of my Florida vendors, and they were just literally assorted guppies, and I ended up keeping some of the females, and they were obviously pregnant because they were in with males and such. So I've been getting a lot of interesting color combos, and been working with them trying to figure out what they may be, if they'll end up breeding true. So that's been kind of a fun little project. In addition to the ones that I know will breed true, I'm just waiting for them to grow up. Where do you buy your online fish? If I had to buy online and I'm looking for a specific strain, I tend to go to Aquabid. I find that I would rather buy from another breeder, another hobbyist, somebody that's in it because they love it, as opposed to somebody looking to turn a big profit. I mean, there's a ton of really, really cool high-end guppy strains out there, and you may or may not see them on Aquabid, and if you do, they may be coming from like a transshipper or something like that. But if I can find somebody local in the States that's selling good quality stuff, I'd rather buy it from them. You know, speaking again from the whole buying wholesale thing, so many fish that are offered through the bigger wholesale companies that also end up selling retail to you guys as well, whether it's direct or through pet stores. The quality of the fish over the last, I'm going to say 5 to 10 years, has really been dropping. You know, so let's say I order in, you know, a dozen guppy pairs. You may end up losing a quarter of that in shipping. Then when you have them, you have to treat and medicate and try to get them back to health. And, you know, this isn't an every now and again thing. It's actually quite a bit. So if I'm buying stuff that I'm going to try to breed and I want good, healthy, quality brood stock, I'll purchase from another hobbyist or, you know, another breeder kind of thing through Aquabid. I like their website a lot. I like the fact that they're not looking to make money out of it, that they're just offering this kind of peer-to-peer buying service, kind of like eBay, but no fees. So that's kind of cool. Just do your homework, you know, look at the reviews from that particular seller, you know, ask questions, send them emails. If they're not responding to you by email, then you may not have good luck if you do have an issue or you have some DOAs or things like that. So. Oh, no worries, buddy. I totally understand. Big text there saying that you canceled the Patreon. No problem, man. Don't worry about it. Fish in the mail sounds like fun but stressful. It can be. I'm lucky that, you know, with what I do for work, I can set my schedule. So if I'm buying something through, you know, Aquabid, and I'm in contact with the seller, and he says, hey, I'm shipping out Monday, it'll be to you Wednesday, I'll arrange my schedule so I can be around, and I always have the seller put on the box, hold at post office, because a lot of them use USPS, and that way there, my local post office knows me, knows that I get fish, and they'll literally just give me a call when it comes in, and a lot of times I can get the fish literally 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, so they've only been in the bags for about 24 to 36 hours, and they tend to do really well. Love what you do. Any saltwater stuff coming down the pipeline? Not at home. I don't have nearly as much disposable income to throw at a saltwater setup right now. I used to have one, and you know, I raise corals and sell corals, but most of my clientele, anybody that has a saltwater tank, they're kind of full up right now. So I don't have a market for selling anything saltwater, so if I have a tank set up and it's not making me any money, it's kind of a hard sell for me to have in the house. So, yeah, and most of what I have for videos as far as saltwater goes is just existing clients' tanks. You know, every now and again I'll take a video or snap a couple pictures and, you know, things like that, but nothing too big or exciting currently. Morning, Fishman. How you doing? And Guppy's looking good. Love those nebula steels. Yes, they are definitely one of my favorites. I mean, there are I guess, cooler looking guppies out there, but as far as what I have that I'm working with right now, they are really, really cool. What's going on, Jay Pani? Hopefully I said that right. Thanks for joining in from Finland. Very cool. Morning, Morgan. You know, it still kind of blows me away that, you know, my little YouTube channel is like, to get people from all over the world to stop in and watch my videos and will comment. Just very cool. Very, very humbling that you guys all tune in and check out my stuff and care what I have to say. Well, thank you, Morgan. I appreciate that. I try, you know. I see some videos, and it's not to poke fun at the people that are doing it, but, you know, sometimes you just have to wonder, do they watch their own videos after the fact? You know, they'll either be rambling on or, you know, talking about one thing and the camera's pointed at something totally, you know, different. I guess I'm just too anal. I gotta have everything look just right, and if it's not right, I do it over again. Or, you know, there's sometimes I'll record a particular block as far as what I'm going to say 10 times. And I probably should save some of these as bloopers, because there's just sometimes I get so frustrated that brain to mouth doesn't function. Very, very funny, Heather. It's weird how timing works sometimes. Hey Kenny, how are you? Welcome to the stream. Not the big box store type, but the mom and pop store type. Yeah, I worked for a mom and pop pet store for 11 years, so that's probably where a lot of that comes from. You know, I ran the fish room there in my time, and you know, it was. I never pushed somebody to buy something because I wanted the sale. If I was going to recommend something to somebody, it was because they truly needed it, and I felt that their life would get easier, or their fish's lives would be better for it. You know, whether it was a filter upgrade or, you know, as some kind of add-on for the sale. You know, I never pushed anything just for the sake of making the money. I wanted the customer for life. I didn't want the customer for that day and then have them go somewhere else and be like, oh, you didn't need that. They were just trying to sell you crap. So that's probably where a lot of that comes from. Oh, missing a few here. Hold on. Is it snowing up there? Yes. Currently it's just a little bit of snow. I guess tomorrow we're supposed to get 8 to 12, which kind of stinks because I got to go up, it's called Gunstock Mountain. It's kind of a ski resort area. So higher elevations, twisty turns, and stuff like that. So that should be fun. Didn't know you did live vids. This is probably, I think, only my third. I was saying earlier, I don't have nearly as much time to do a live vid. You know, the commitment of having to stand here and be in front of the camera for an hour while people tune in and things like that, and not have the kids around, not have other things that I need to do around the house, not be on the road. You know, I could probably live stream, you know, like an On the Road with the Fish Guy episode, but I'd rather not try to deal with that. That sounds like a little too intense of paying attention to comments and things like that while driving. Planning on to do anything today on the fish room? Well, I'm probably due for some water changes on the guppy 10 gallons. Angelfish, they could always use a water change. You know, now with them getting bigger, I don't like to go too long without. I end up doing like a 50%, excuse me, 50% change probably twice a week. You know, they're only in a 20, and there's 11 of them, and they're putting on some size, and I feed them pretty heavy, so they need their water change. Michigan, and we've had snow every day this week. Yep, sounds about normal for this time of year. And a light dusting in Missouri. Nice. Supposed to get snow tonight. Says Heather, whereabouts are you, Heather? And so done with this winter. Yeah, you know, it hasn't even technically been that long. It feels like it has. You know, we didn't have too bad a cold. I mean, there's some years for us here, you know, in January, we end up below zero for, you know, a week plus. And we had a little bit of that, I think it was December, maybe a little bit in January, but it didn't seem to last too long. So, but yeah, I'm about done. I don't really do anything in the wintertime. You know, I got out on my brother-in-law's snowmobile like twice, and that was about it. And that was good enough. I got out, I rode. You know, it was a nice little trip. But you know, winter just annoys me for the most part. Whether it's snow days for the kids that I then have to rearrange my schedule, or dealing with driving in it because you know, sometimes I'm 200 miles in a day I got to travel. So it's an annoyance. Start at LFS and agree, be good to your customers, and they come back. Absolutely. There's an old saying, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but it's something to the tune of 90% of your business is 10% of your customers. So being good to your loyal customers, making sure they know that, you know, you appreciate them, that is huge in the retail industry for sure. In Nebraska. Gotcha. Do I have a fish that I feed culls to? I've been considering taking out my ornate Bashir from up in the 180 upstairs and moving him down into a 10 down here if I can qualify the space. Just because I've been feeding floating pellets to all the big guys, and I have these sinking carnivore pellets from Hikari that he absolutely loves. The downside is the big cichlids tend to just dive bomb, get all the sinking ones, and then they go back up to the floating ones. So it's a little frustrating. I haven't been able to get him as much food as I like. He's putting on some size, but he would probably benefit greatly from being in a tank by himself and then getting the odd guppy every now and again. So if I was to have one, he would probably be it. I just can't justify giving up a 10-gallon for him quite yet. What's going on, Aquarium Cop? Thanks for joining us. Fish got their first tubifex yesterday. They had no idea what to do with it. A lot of times that'll happen. Anytime you introduce new food types that have a different texture or a different shape, For example, my angelfish, you know, a lot of times they love bloodworms when they're bigger. Any angelfish I've ever had before, you know, they just go nuts for it. When I first gave them a cube of bloodworms, even after, you know, melting it and allowing it to, you know, be the individual worms, they just didn't have a clue. They looked at it like it was going to try to eat them. It was kind of funny. Do I raise my own live food for fry? I do. I do the baby brine shrimp. I found that's kind of the most convenient, the easiest way to do it. When I had the Bosemani rainbows and they were a smaller size, I ended up doing, you know, every day I'd have a batch of baby brine. And finally they got big enough that they started eating the small food. Let's see, the fancy guppy food. That's a small enough particle that they just go in gangbusters on it, and they're putting on good size with it. So I do baby brine now probably 2 to 3 times a week. You know, I feed one batch that I make will feed everybody in the fish room. I give it to the adults as well as the juveniles, and they seem to love it. So. Is this wisteria in your breeding tanks? How does it work for you? And are you thinking of using some other types of plants in these tanks like java moss or guppy grass? Your English is fine, buddy. No problem. I've been using the wisteria only because it just tends to be clean. Does that make sense? You know, if you have java moss, if you have guppy grass, I've had instances where you just have all sorts of particulates of the plant, or stuff gets stuck in there because it's a little more dense. As opposed to with the wisteria, I mean, most of it tends to float if it's not in the little planted cups that I have. And if I have enough of it in there, the babies go in no problem. Not a lot of food or waste or anything gets trapped in there. So, you know, I've had tanks with java moss before, and I haven't really messed with guppy grass, but it looks about the same, and I've heard people complaining about it similarly. You know, the java moss is just so dense. It's great the babies get into it, but it sits on the bottom, and then all the waste in the food and everything collects in there as well, and it's just not as easy to keep clean. And I don't know if you, I mean, this is dirty for me. Let's see if I can just kind of attach so things would do that. You know, that's dirty for me. You know, I end up vacuuming this out probably, you know, twice a week, give or take. You know, but no algae for the most part, you know, no extra waste. Sometimes you get stuff that'll collect underneath that pot, and every time I vac, I just move the pot to the other side. I vac what's underneath it. You know, I got the little plecos in there, 1 pleco per tank. They take care of any residual algae that pops up. And they even, you know, go through the waste to make sure they're picking up the food and stuff too. So. Come on, antiquated laptop. You can do it. There we go. They were all in the tank looking for the smell. Angel tried to nip at it and fell off the side of the tank. That's funny. Hello, aquarium lover. How are you? Thanks for joining the stream. And yes, the brine do have awesome protein for the guppy fry. I found that even the close to newborn guppies, they'll still eat that hikari guppy food. You know, they can't take the whole pellet in, but they'll sit there and they'll munch on it and kind of roll it around, and you know, it breaks off little pieces for them. I have great luck with it, and the fry seem to grow pretty quickly on it too. So, like I said, I mix in the baby brine. Perk of the java moss is if you can get it growing good, LFS love it. Yes. I am going to start working with more plants as time goes on. Again, free time and, you know, working with these guys. What free time I've had, I've been just trying to get all this up and running and focused on that. So eventually I'll rotate it in, and because I'll end up doing a larger plant order. I'll just get a bunch of different things all at once, see what does well with my water, what really takes off. The wisteria is great because I always say you can grow that stuff in the back of a toilet. As long as it has light and it's wet, it doesn't seem to really care too much. Now, if you provide all of the essentials, it tends to just go gangbusters. You know, I have one client's tank that's a planted tank. It was in my Angelfish Basics video that I did, where I showed the tank because it had some angels in it. And I can pull out, I swear, half a bucket full of wisteria out of that every month. It's just nuts how fast it goes. But that tank, I do fertilizers, I have CO2 running on it, so that gets it going even more. No problem, Martins. Aquatics and Furries, thanks for joining us. How would wisteria do with ferts and no CO2? Well, that's basically what I'm doing right here. And actually, up until recently, I wasn't even doing fertilizers. It was only, I think, a week or two ago, I actually started dosing my water barrel. So I have a 50-gallon water barrel that I make up my water ahead of time for all the water changes for these guys. That way, you know, I have actually a sponge filter in there, but it's basically an air stone. So it oxygenates it, gets everything settled. I adjust the pH because my pH comes out of the tap at like 5.8, so it's extremely low and not very good for, you know, higher pH loving or harder water fish. So I end up putting some baking soda in. I dose for that. That gets it about right. Gets my TDS about right as well. And then I only just started adding fertilizers to the water, so I'm going to see what the difference is, because I notice some of the wisteria, they're starting to lighten up a little bit, and I think that has a lot to do with the fact that I do a fair amount of water changes, and, you know, nitrates don't get to build up, phosphates don't get to build up, so there's no natural fertilizers happening, whereas, you know, in a typical aquarium, you're not doing 50%, you know, twice a week or even once a week. So I'm adding in a light dose of ferts to hopefully counteract that, because I'd love to have it keep growing and get a little bit denser, just to have more luck with, you know, having larger numbers of guppy fries survive. Just started my first planted tank and have kind of shied away from CO2. Seems like too much. It can be. It depends on how you want to do it. There's obviously the DIY stuff that people do with yeast and sugar. Or, you know, I don't know what the trend is right now for the, you know, flavor of the month DIY stuff. I've messed with that. That can definitely be a pain because you're constantly having to make sure that the CO2 output is consistent and making up new batches to get it going. Anytime I do CO2, I do the 5-pound bottle, and then I do a pH controller, and then a solenoid regulator, so that the pH dictates when the CO2 turns on and off. That tends to be the safest. Every now and again, you'll end up with one of those pieces sticking, whether the solenoid doesn't, you know, open, or it stays open when it shouldn't. But for the most part, it's not as much of a hassle. The downside is the cost of entry to do that can be pretty pricey. I think last time I looked, you're up in the like $250 range, depending on what regulator you used, what pH controller. So it can be pricey for sure. If you were doing a true high-tech tank and you were doing a bigger tank, that would be the way to go. But again, it can be pricey. Do you like to put guppies in tubs or anything outdoors? I haven't done anything like that yet, mostly because I'm in New Hampshire and our outdoor weather season, you know, pond season, is extremely short. You know, for example, we have a pool for the kids outside. It's a pretty good size, but, you know, we'll end up putting it up end of May, early June. And, you know, it takes probably a good month to really warm up, you know, because we still get 50-degree temps or even cooler. So, you know, any ponds or tubs I have outside, the temp would only be good, you know, probably 1 or 2 months a year without having to worry about it dipping down too cold for me. Missing some stuff here. For those of us who, oh, come on laptop, there we go, who don't have or want a CO2 system, is the liquid CO2 worth using? I'm assuming when you're talking about liquid CO2, you're talking like Seachem Excel, if I had to guess. Yes, for the longest time at the shop, I was recommending the Seachem Basics stuff. You know, the Flourish multi-fert, so it has a little bit of everything in it. It's the dark brown liquid, and then using the Seachem Excel. So if you're doing a low-tech tank with not very bright lights, those two I had good luck with, you know, recommending and you know, coming back with customers saying that their plants were doing okay. It's the Excel is also has a perk that it actually helps keep algae away as well. So I don't see anything wrong in using it, and it's definitely a good alternative if you're not going to mess with an actual CO2 system of some variety. So for sure. So I got everything set up on the top of the 20 longs, so bear with me. Hopefully one of my glass canopies just moved, so I'm hoping I have everything set up okay. I just inject CO2 into my tank 24/7 for more than 2 years, 2 to 3 bubbles per second with no problems. Cheap industrial CO2 tank. Yep, definitely a viable option. I had concerns with running without a regulator and just doing the bubbles per second, because it seemed whatever I used, it wouldn't maintain consistency. And I had concerns that, you know, by constantly putting CO2 in the tank, you know, the pH would drop and I wouldn't have a consistent pH. You know, I never got into it too much to find a good needle valve. I guess that probably has a lot to do with it. I just didn't find it was consistent enough. You know, every now and again the diffuser in the tank might get some algae on it, so then it's letting a different amount of CO2 out. But, you know, there's definitely nothing wrong with doing it that way. I was just concerned. You know, from my viewpoint, I have to look at it from the aspect of, if I set this up on somebody's tank and then I don't see them again for potentially 2 weeks to a month, what's going to happen in that month of me not touching it and the customer not touching it? So I really can't gamble with that, you know, again, if something did go wrong and it was putting too much CO2 in and it just plummets the pH and then the whole tank's dead and I have an angry customer. So I can't afford to do that, sadly. No problem, guys. Happy to help. Using Excel and Flourish by Seachem. Yep, definitely good stuff. Have the Excel but haven't used it yet as upgrading the tank size. Yeah, you have nothing to lose. You know, you do that initial, they have an initial dose, and then you have like a maintenance dose that you do thereafter, or they'll recommend doing that initial dose if you do a big water change. As long as you're following the guidelines as far as the recommended amount, you really can't overdo it in that sense. So you should be more than fine. No hesitation there. Go for it. Works for you and keeps the pH at 6.5. Tap water is 7. Nice. Hey, if it works for you, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's the awesome thing about this hobby, is that there's so many different ways to do things, and none of them are technically wrong as long as they work for you. As long as you're getting your intended results from what you're doing, I say go for it. In a pinch, have I ever used hydrogen peroxide for oxygen in a power outage or etc.? I haven't, mostly because I keep battery-operated air pumps on hand, and also have a generator for the house. But no, I wasn't even really aware of using peroxide as a potential oxygen source for fish. So that's kind of interesting. Missing some stuff here. 29-gallon Fluval 2.0, very heavily planted using Easy Green from Aquarium Co-op. I have heard good things about his stuff, and it is on my to-do list to actually pick some up and check them out and see what it's all about. Everybody that I've heard that has used his line of plant stuff has been very happy. And, you know, watching some of his earlier videos, he really is into the plants, and even now he's got like a whole section devoted to you know, plants, and is a very big thing on his website. So he's definitely got a handle on what's going on in the plant world. I get into it a little bit, but it's definitely not my main focus. Can I show you the fish room? Sure. I've got it plugged into the laptop, and the 20 longs are not quite all lit up, but you know, let's see. See if I can do this at the same time. Actually, can I swap the camera around? Hold on. Let's see what we got going on here. I can. Look at that. Hey. It is a bit of a mess, so bear with me here. I'm not going to show you everything and see how far I can back up. There we go. So there's the tank rack. We got 2 rows of 10 gallons, which pretty much have all guppies. And we got the 20 longs down below there. They got my mutt tank, you know, basically my culls on the bottom left. And got the blue Pinoy Angels on the right. I have this 75 down here that I'm actually really not doing anything with. I needed to steal the heater from it and use it elsewhere because one of my heaters failed on me. So that will probably end up being the Angel tank. I'm thinking that's going to be more the way I'm going to go. I'll put all of them into that tank. And once I get everybody start pairing off, then I'll move them back to the 20s. Everything is organized. Well, the part I'm showing you is organized. The behind me, not so much. It's kind of overflow, catch-all from all my stuff for work, and I really need to get down here and really put some effort into cleaning things up, but that has not happened as of yet. But, you know, I've got water-making barrels, I got my RO system, you know, that's about it elsewhere. Let's see, I'm missing some comments here. Perfect tap water comes from a mountain river, very cool. Aquarium Cop, your tap water is 6062. Yeah, mine comes out at 5.8, so I definitely have to play with it before I can use it for myself. Nearest LFS is an hour away, that's kind of a bummer. Tanks are all looking great, thank you very much. I try this, and this is, I didn't do anything prior to make it look pretty. This is what it looks like all the time, you know. And even this kind of bugs me, you know, but that's the bare bottom, that's what you get. I can vac it, and by the time evening rolls around, it looks about the same, so. Any salt water? I do. I have this kind of holding tank for salt water, but that's about it. You know, I use that when I get fish in for clients. If I need to, I have a bigger tote kind of tub thing that I use just for quarantine and setup to, you know, hold some larger fish if I need to. Hold on. Have fish stuff and fish tanks all over the house. It's pretty hard to keep it all perfectly organized. Yeah, definitely. Alright, I'm going to switch back here. This is tough to... There we go. Ta-da! Hard to keep track of comments and paying attention to what I'm videoing at the same time. Scroll back up, there we go. I use undergravel filters, so I notice plants don't do so well in the substrate. So I use hornwort and banana plants, duckweed, mossballs, etc. Yeah, it's tough with the undergravel because you don't, unless you put a thick layer of gravel on top of that, the roots can't really get down into it. Basement is like an aquarium chop shop. Yep. I have a couple of racks down here that it's kind of like a graveyard for parts and pieces, as well as I keep things like you know, substrate and filter cartridges and stuff like that that I need for work. But you know, I never throw anything away when it comes to, oh, this pump died. Well, the impeller's still fine, the magnet's still fine, all the parts and pieces connected to it are still fine. You know, I'll keep that just in case I have a client that, you know, breaks a mount or needs an impeller. So instead of having to buy it, I'm like, hey, I got this used one here, you know, sell it to you cheap kind of deal, and get you back up and running within a day, as opposed to waiting for stuff, you know, to ship through the mail. So. Love to get a hold of some hornwort. Yeah. OCD with my tanks too. Yep. I can't stand it if the water's not clear. You know, if the fish don't look like they're floating in air, that's a problem for me. And just algae's going crazy. I can't have that either. Should have named my channel Aquarium Chop Shop. No, that would be pretty cool. Hates the sight of heaters in my tanks. Yeah, you know, having to see all the equipment is tough, but in breeding setups, you don't really want to get too complicated. You know, my 180 upstairs, that is, for me, the best way to go, because everything is hidden behind it. The only thing you see in the tank is I have an output nozzle sticking through the 3D background, so there's no heaters, no filters, no cords, no nothing, and that's what I always strive for in a tank if I can. You know, not every tank obviously has a 3D background, but, you know, if you can do it and make it work, it's the way to go. Pack rat by nature, and fish stuff just makes it worse. Yep, I'm definitely the same way. Have I done any collaborations on YouTube with other fish keepers? Thinking about it, live collabs or one-on-one like the Rick back in the day. I haven't. There was a brief window where Kevin's Fish and Reptile, he's on YouTube here, that he's actually from my area originally, and then he moved up out Midwest somewhere. I apologize, I forget exactly where. But he was coming back for a wedding, and he ended up, I was just checking out his channel one day, and I noticed he was talking about doing a trip and hitting places on the way, and I looked at the destination. It was literally my town. I'm like, oh, no way. You know, I'm like, so I reached out to him, like, hey, if you're in the area, you know, maybe we can meet up and, you know, chat and whatever, and it just didn't end up working out. You know, my kids were sick one day, the next day he just wasn't able to get over here, and it just didn't work out. But, you know, I'd love to do something with some of the other YouTubers on here. I think that would be cool, and I think a lot of you viewers would like it as well. You know, because it's all well and good on a live stream to, you know, have one person talking at you like I am now, and, you know, we're interacting via the chat, but when you have two people going back and forth, at least for me personally, like if we're like Real Fish Talk or, you know, Corey on Aquarium Co-op, when it's him and another guy and or girl and they're chatting and talking fish, I'm more invested in watching that, because just enjoying listening to them go back and forth and debate things and things like that. So 180 is a sweet tank. Yeah, Tom, it is, isn't it? Backwoods White Mountain Comics, that was actually his tank that I built for him, and when he moved he wasn't able to take it with him, so I had to make sure to take it and you know, and make sure it had a good home. Thanks for stopping in, Aquarium Cop. Have a good one. Talk to Corey about going on Real Fish Talk. Well, you know, maybe. You know, like I've talked about, the whole finding the time to be able to be on here and be live and not have the kids being crazy, because this is kind of my only spot in the basement to be able to do stuff like this, and that's why I've actually been doing a lot of my videos down here when I'm talking and, you know, doing various things. The downside is very thin floors. So when the dogs get going and the kids get going, all you would hear is just back and forth, back and forth. So maybe someday, but we'll see. What's going on, Rickard Rocks? Thanks for joining us. Dustin and LR Bretts did a live dual feed from their respective places. That worked out well. Yeah. Another thing for me is my tech is very, very simple. So right now I'm on the YouTube app on my phone, and I have that plugged into the laptop to make sure it stays charged and running, and then I have my antiquated laptop to look through the chat. 'Cause, it comes up on the screen here, but if I happen to miss something, it's a lot easier for me to go on the laptop and go back. But yeah, I guess that's just an excuse. Maybe someday. Technology often intimidates me. It used to not for me. I consider myself kind of a techie, but there's just certain things that are kind of outside my wheelhouse. So, the whole live streaming thing and, the software. It's mostly the software for me of how to make all that work and talk to each other and play nice. That's where just the app going live has been awesome and not nearly as intimidating. I tried doing Google Hangouts once, and that was, it just felt like a struggle to make it all work. Have to get ready for work. Good to talk. Yeah, thanks for stopping by down the wormhole. I appreciate you stopping by. Where to go? There we go. Maybe. I guess I just need a new laptop. Used to own a small computer business. Oh, very cool. And Hangouts has improved lately. Well, that's good to know. I know the saltwater guys over there, Rico's Reef Tank, he's been doing the Google Hangouts thing since I really started getting into the YouTube thing, and it seems most of his live stream are the Hangouts, so it's interesting. He wants 4,000 hours to remain monetized. He doesn't have 4,000 hours? I would have thought he would have easily been within that. Huh. I mean, I've cleared... I did the math the other day, as I had 1,500 hours just last month alone. So I mean, lucky for me, knock on wood, I fell within the new guidelines to be able to stay monetized. So I was happy about that. And maybe it's more that he does more live streams than videos, because I don't think he puts out too many videos. Did I hear in one of your vids you're in New Hampshire? I am. I'm in the Lakes region, up in Plymouth. Based on views and channel age. Again, I would have thought he would have cleared that, because he was into it way before I was. So I started back in March, basically. That when I really started to get into it and start making videos consistently. And I remember he was hitting his 1,000 subscriber mark then. So for him to go from that point to now and not have the 4,000 hours of watch time, that just sounds weird to me. I don't know. 8 hours live streaming, be serious. Can't learn nothing from that. Yeah, it seemed like he just wanted to hang out and chat with friends. I tried being a part of a couple of the streams. I think I even joined one hangout once upon a time, and it seemed less about talking about saltwater aquariums and more about just shooting the shit. it wasn't for me. I've got enough stuff to do. I can't hang out with virtual friends all day online. Oh, you're in Woodsville. Very cool, James. Rickard rocks. I was talking about Rico's reef tanks. Does not have 100K. 100K minutes watch time? Is that what you're talking about? See many YouTubers going 8 hours live streaming. Yeah, I don't have that free time. I'm actually lucky I was able to fit this in today. I had kind of a, you know, a light day as far as stuff I had to do around the house, not too much to do here in the fish room. So yeah, I think this is my third ever live stream, so don't get used to it, but maybe if I can fit it in on a slow day, you know, I'll be back on here. Gotcha. I'll take your word for it. I believe you. I just thought it was unusual, that's all. What is my favorite current fish I have in the fish room? That's kind of a tough one. Are we just in the fish room? Not talking about my 180 upstairs? Just want to be specific. Oh, the 180 would count. All right. I really love my Paratilapia upstairs. Those, you know, velvet black with the iridescent green spots on it. I love them. He's an awesome fish. You know, the big male especially. It's just a little frustrating with him because the whole point, you know, of having them up there is I want them to breed, and he's just too much of a dink to just get along with the female and make it work. So he's probably my favorite. A close second would be the Nebula Steel Guppies. I know they're simple, they're just guppies, but just the colors, the patterns, you know, it's such a simple fish to get that level of color, and, you know, it's just, it's very cool. I like them a lot. And of course my blue Pinoy Angels, those are nice too. Hey, what's going on, Scoundtown Aquatics? Thanks for stopping in, buddy. Not seen that tank. The 180 upstairs? If you watch my February fish room tour, I have it at the end of that one, and then I have other videos on the channel as well. I think maybe when I listed, you know, possible spawning behavior with the Paratilapia, I did kind of more of a full tank shot. It's a 180 gallon classic 6 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot, and I have a 3D background in it that looks like a tree trunk, you know, coming down, and at the base with the roots, you know, a 180 is 2 feet front to back. The roots actually come down and touch the front of the tank. And then there's rock wall on either side of the tree trunk. So it sticks out and it takes up a lot of in-tank space, but it's just really, really cool looking. You know, very clean, hides all the equipment. You know, I have a big FX6 canister on there, and the only thing you see is the output nozzle that I put through the 3D background. So. What's my air source? I have a Pondmaster AP100, basically the biggest one that they make, and it's been great, and it's actually overkill for what I have, but I bought it with the idea of expanding it. So currently I'm using the integrated, well, I guess I can show you guys, it's not too horrible looking. Hold on, bear with me here.
So I'm using the integrated diffuser that they give you, and basically I have airline tubing, you know, from one outlet, and then it kinks over and it goes to another one. So I'm sealing off the extra outlets that way. And I have a few others that are open that bleed off extra air, so I'm not putting too much you know, strain on the pump. The pump's actually cool to the touch, it's not overheating, and that's kind of a big goal. So I have these tubes kind of going everywhere, and on the rack you have the stainless valves that I have there. So each tank, you know, from left to right has its own valve. So I can control the air literally right here, as opposed to, you know, up on the wall with a PVC line, just having individual ones come down. Now, eventually, I am gonna do PVC off the pump and run it around the fish room, and I'll just have two lines coming off the PVC, one going to each end of this gang valve, and then, you know, down here, same thing, and then down below, I'll have, I think I'm going to put in a 4-gang valve, because I'm probably going to end up putting two sponge filters in each of those 20s, or I'll end up putting a 75 down there and having it be a 75 with multiples instead, so we'll see. It's still kind of in a state of flux. I'm not 100% what I'm going to do for my next build out, because I am going to do another rack basically right in front here. So instead of just having the 320 longs, I'm going to build another rack like I have here, and I'll probably end up doing all 20 longs. The 10s have been nice, but if it's not guppies and it's something bigger, like I have blood red swordtails, I'd rather have the 20 long, have the extra space, and I can still keep them on end. Let's see if I can swap this around. I don't know if you guys have seen this. You know, I can still keep it on end and only be viewing it from the front like this. So I can fit a ton of tanks, a ton of gallonage in that nice small footprint, and still have a ton of tanks in what little space I do have. Yeah, he's a pretty fish. I like him a lot. Very cool. You know, I started with cichlids, you know, when I was younger. I had Oscars, Dempseys, things like that. And they're just so personable. And, excuse me, the fact that they get bigger, too, is awesome to have. It's more like a pet, literally. You know, guppies are cool, small fish are cool, tetras, things like that. But you can really get attached to a larger fish that you have for 5-10 years, you know, that knows you, comes over, lets you pet them. You know, it's literally more like a pet. It's very cool. Hello from Norway. Hey, how we doing? Thanks for joining us. All right, Mike asks, hold on, it hasn't hit my laptop yet. There we go. How did you get into the hobby/business? What do you love and hate about freshwater versus saltwater? All right, so let's start with the first one. How did you get into the hobby/business? My dad got me a fish tank, oh geez, early elementary school probably, was when I had my first tank. He was always into fish, always had tanks kicking around, so I started with a 30 extra tall. So that's 2 foot 13, and then it's 2 feet tall. It was kind of a weird shape, but I had all sorts of different fish in there, and that kept my interest over the years. And then just eventually, when I got older, got out of high school, did some college, but I started working at a local pet store, and I ended up staying there for 11 years. So I worked my way up, you know, became manager of the fish room, was pretty much running half the business, dealing with all, you know, wholesalers and dry goods and live fish and things like that. And you know, that's what got me into the business. And then, you know, fast forward 11 years later, towards the end, I just decided I was ready to go out on my own, and it was kind of burnt out on the whole retail side of things. I loved it because I loved to interact with my customers. You know, I loved seeing the same people every week. They'd come in for advice or just to chat and pick up a few things, and you know, that was what I loved about it. And it's just the rest of the stuff I could have dealt without, you know what I mean? So, you know, now I do installation and maintenance. I work for myself. I set my own schedule. I can be around more with the kiddos, and it's been nice. And what do I love and hate about freshwater versus saltwater? That's a tough one. I mean, I love and hate both equally. You know, there's little things about both. I mean, freshwater, I guess, I don't know.
that's a tough one. um, I don't know as if I actually hate anything about either, to be honest. Now that I'm actually thinking about it, you know, you can't hate the maintenance, because the maintenance is what keeps everything alive and keeps it, you know, going. I guess if anything I hate about saltwater is salt creep. That's the one thing that I could live without. You know, you get the salt crystals growing up and around by the filters or the side of the tank wherever water splashes. So I guess that's the one thing I hate about saltwater. Rickard Rocks. Yes, I got my first beta recently. Thought I'd never get one. Now he's my favorite fish. So interactive and fun to feed. Yeah, it's interesting when you have a fish that is more personable. It feels more like a pet. You feel like you're interacting more with them. Miss my betas. Did you have a lot of betas, Carla? And then, do you have just guppies? No, I have a lot of different things going on. Mostly guppies. Alright, so I guess we'll go back to doing the quickie fish room tour thing again. Alright, so, back up again without tripping over stuff. These 10-gallon tanks, these are all guppies. Alright, so I have, what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 different color morphs that I'm working with right now in those 10 tanks. And then I have a cull tank, so that's where everything goes that doesn't make the cut as far as what I want to keep and to breed. And then I have blue Pinoy angelfish that I got these guys back, let's see, 11/15, so November 15th. I got them, they're about dime size. They're growing up nicely. The goal is to have them have at least a pair or 2 end up out of it. So that's the long-term goal. I'm probably easily, again, like I said, probably another 6 months out. Now these tanks aren't really lit up because I changed the color of the light above it, and I have the laptop sitting on top of it. But I've got bushy nose plecos in here, some babies that didn't get spread around. Eventually, I'll probably end up doing the bushy nose pleco thing. I have a lot of clients that would probably enjoy having them be offered. I have some of my female guppies in there. These guys, blood red swordtails, that one of them ended up being a male. I was very excited. I got these guys, again, from Scoundtown Aquatics. If he's still on here, hey, free plug for you. Go check out his site. And then, again, bushy nose plecos in there. And then I have my Bosemani rainbow fry. These guys hatched out in October. They are a very, very slow-growing fish that... see if I can get it to focus a little better here. Maybe? No? Not so much. They're finally putting on some good size. When the lights are on, they're normal color. They're actually showing some good colors now. They got some blues popping out. Just an essence, but enough to be like, hey, they're finally turning into rainbows. So I'm hopeful that eventually I'll have a bunch of these guys to offer as well. And then upstairs, I have a 180. I have some Paratilapia blackiri, starry night cichlid, black diamond cichlid. There's a couple of the common names for those. I've got a big green Severum, the red-headed version, Steve the Severum. What else do I got in there? Plecos. Oh, Ornate Bashir I have up there. And then my son has 120 in his room that I have the adult Bosemani rainbows that I bred, and a bunch of things like tinfoil barbs and tetras and stuff like that. So I have a lot of stuff going on. But the breeding project is mostly guppies, and then working with the angels eventually. The rainbows have been doing well, and the swordtails eventually. So I'll get into other stuff as space permits. You know, I didn't think I was going to take up this much space with guppies, to be honest, but once I got into it and started playing with my mystery guppies, it's been a lot of fun and taken up more tanks than I expected, but still pretty cool. No problem, Scoundtown. You got a cool channel, and people should go check it out, because his fish room actually kind of puts mine to shame. Mine is small in comparison, and he's got a lot of cool fish in there. The discus especially, that I would kill for right now if I had the space and the money to do it. Is that corn in the bottom of my tank? No. If it looks like it, I'm not quite sure why. It's literally just gravel. regular gravel. Real fish talk thing, hashtag free plug real fish talk. Okay, I'll take your word for it. What time do you have there? Currently, it's 10 till 11, so almost 11 o'clock in the morning. No problem. Happy to answer. How we doing, Fish Loft? Thanks for joining us. Are you on the East Coast? Yes, I am. I'm up in New Hampshire. Do any planted tanks? At home, not really. I have live plants in most of the tanks, but nothing truly set up as a quote-unquote planted tank. I've got a couple of clients that have planted tanks that I take care of for them. In my angelfish video, I showed off one of them. It was a 55-gallon, which is it's very dense. He's got wisteria and crypts and one other plant I can't remember. Thank you, Anu Aquatics. Appreciate it. I'm from Romania. You guys don't know where that is. I could probably find it on a map if I had it, but I know you're in Europe, over in that general vicinity. Missing some stuff here. Gonna need some of those rainbows. All right, well, hey, we'll do some trading when the time comes. Absolutely. You know, it's just going to probably be another 3 months before they're big enough and they're actually looking like rainbows, but absolutely, keep it in mind. Good source for guppies and angelfish. Well, I found when I'm looking for new stuff that I want to breed, I end up going on Aquabid. I think that purchasing from other breeders, other hobbyists who are into it, and they really care about the health and the quality of what they're providing. And that should be pretty apparent when you're looking at their posts or looking at the feedback that they've been left, that you get a good idea of what they have to offer and is it going to be any good for you. Another free plug for Scoundtown Aquatics is I know he has a lot of stuff and he's going to be putting stuff on Aquabid, according to his last video, I think, relatively soon. So if you're looking for anything specific, go check out his channel and hit him up and let him know what you want. Missing some stuff here. There we go. Had a Polini small spot in a 125. Loved that fish. About a year later, put in 3 Blakiri and all heck broke loose. Oh. Yeah, you know, those wonderful cichlids, their personalities can really really kick in sometimes. You know, right now my big male he's just an absolute dink. You know, he matured and then he wanted to kill the other male, and then he keeps the female tucked into a corner. When I do a water change, I'll do probably a 50% on that one once a month, maybe twice a month if I'm feeling ambitious. And they'll get into the mood. You know, both of them will go jet black. You know, they do their dance. Supposedly they spawn in the gravel, so they start poking around in the gravel and they mess around in a corner by themselves. And then the next day, it's just back to business as usual. He's being a dink, she's in the corner, and nothing ever comes of it. So whether they're not quite ready yet or not quite old enough, I don't know, but it is frustrating. Fun part I like the most of your fish room is all the channel stickers. Yes, I ended up doing the sticker collection from Jadron's Aquatics there, which I thought was very cool. He needs to do some kind of, I don't know,
when you purchase the sticker collection, you have everything up to that point. But then once more people start submitting their channel stickers, you miss out on those. So figuring out a way of, hey, I ordered on this day, can I get everybody else from that point forward? I gotta probably talk to him and see if we can do something like that. Because I still want to add to it, and especially as I get more racks going, I want to just keep going with all the channel stickers, and I think it's cool, and definitely for you guys too to be able to be like, oh hey, I see my sticker, because I did the same thing when I sent my my logo in for Jadron's Aquatics, and you know, I saw it up on his racks too. I'm like, oh hey, there's my sticker. So yes, East Europe. Okay, I knew you were over there somewhere. I'm not completely oblivious to the European countries, but it's not my forte. Are you like a clean Michael's fish room guy? I mean, do you breed to sell fish, or is it just a hobby? Well, I own my own business, so I do aquarium maintenance and installation, and I sell dry goods, and I sell fish. And when I sell fish, it's usually I buy from wholesalers, I tank, and then I resell. But this has kind of been an interesting way for me to start breeding my own stock, because earlier in the live stream I was talking about how it's been very frustrating to get fish through wholesalers. The quality has just been plummeting, and even the better, bigger named wholesalers that you guys might know, Seagrass Farms in Florida, is I get a lot of stuff through them. You know, even with them, sometimes it's tough because they salt the hell out of their fish as a way to keep away disease and other issues, and that's all well and fine, but not all of us salt our tanks that heavy, and then they come in, they try to acclimate to without salt, and sometimes they struggle, especially live bearers. If they get used to salt, it's tough sometimes to get them off of that. So I guess I am going to be similar in the sense to Michael's Fish Room, that once everything's up and running and I know my lines are going to breed true, and that if I sell, let's say, a half black blue, it's going to be a half black blue, and that their babies will be, I'll end up selling online. You know, whether it's just through Aquabid, or I do have some ideas about doing a simple website. I've done a few online sale websites before that I've built and had good luck with for other folks, that I'll probably end up doing something similar myself. Offer some simple dry goods as well, just so if you're getting fish or getting some plants and, oh hey, I need some fertilizers too, or I need some medication or something like that, I'll have that on there as well to share the shipping and make it a little more friendly for everybody. Let's see. Come on, laptop. Don't fail me now. Finally catching it. So nice on a small live stream, every comment get to the creator. Yeah, I try. Even on my videos, you know, if I have some time in the morning, if I'm drinking my coffee, or later at night once the kids are in bed, you know, I try to hop on and answer everybody's question, or if they're, you know, giving a compliment, you know, thanks, hey, thanks for watching. I just think it's really cool to be able to interact with you guys, because for the last 3 years that I've been doing my new business, my installation and maintenance, that's kind of what I've missed out on. The part that I loved about the retail store the most was just interacting with so many hobbyists every single day. Oh, see you later, aquarium lover. Thanks for stopping by. You know, missing out on an interaction with hobbyists every single day, because I am a fish geek. I love talking fish, talking tanks, you know, seeing what other people are doing, you know, learning from each other. You know, even at this point in my career, let's call it, because that's what I've been doing for most of my adult life, with fish, is that I'm still learning new things. You know, everybody in their own field of expertise has something to offer, as well as just, you know, somebody trying something new that nobody's tried before. It's like, hey, I had luck with this worked out, you know, all right, well, let's backtrack. Let's figure out why that worked, and, you know, see if it's something that other people can reproduce. So I just think it's really cool being able to interact with you guys, and especially it's just awesome from all over the world, literally. Romania, Finland, just in this live stream alone. So that's just been very, very cool. I've enjoyed it a lot. Thanks for all the videos and great advice. You helped me take the leap to my first saltwater nano mixed reef. Well, very cool, Mike. I'm glad to hear that, and glad that I was able to help in some small way to get you to give it a shot. If I were to purchase a fancy guppy from a store, could you breed it into a nice fish? Well, you can buy really nice fancy guppies from a store and have them be nice right from the get-go. There are wholesalers out there that sell pretty good-looking fancy guppies. Seagrass Farms is one in particular that if your local pet store has dealings with them, they can, you know, they have a list that sometimes some things are available, some things aren't. But if you put in a request to an LFS, if they're worth a grain of salt, they'll give it a shot and try to get you what you want. You know, that was always one of our things at the shop that we were renowned for, is that, you know, we welcomed any special requests. If it was available in the hobby, odds are I could probably get my hands on it, and we always tried to make those special requests happen for folks. And, you know, but certain things just aren't available. You know, like the Nebula Steel guppies. You're not going to see those in a pet store unless somebody local is breeding them and bringing them in. But, you know, when I started playing with the guppies and doing the fish room thing, and I started looking on Aquabid, there were so many guppy strains that I was just oblivious to, because, again, from my perspective, working at a pet store and knowing what was available through wholesalers, because we obviously don't buy retail. When you're selling retail, you have to buy wholesale to make everything work with the numbers. Wholesalers just didn't sell anything like that. And so that was kind of cool to see that there was a whole nother world of fish out there that just people were breeding and propagating, and it was only available through small-time breeders and, you know, amongst each other. So that was kind of cool. Really need to get a new laptop. It's driving me crazy. Oh, and Rickard Rocks is in Sweden. Very cool. The LFS Our Way has been trying to get blue and purple tetras for months. Blue and purple tetras. Are we talking about the glowfish tetras? I get to look at the order form at work, and we can special order. Just wasn't sure of quality from farms. It can be hit or miss depending on the wholesaler. Seagrass Farm specifically, I follow, my rep has a Facebook page for her position at Seagrass Farms, and she'll go around the you know, the facility, and she'll take videos and pictures. And just the other day, actually, she was showing some guppies that were coming from, I think it was Czechoslovakia. There was a lot of fish coming in from there, and the guppies were just amazing. There were like some yellows and some other really cool strains, and so it is possible. You just have to catch them on the right day, I guess, depending on when they come in. Blue tetras and purple tetras. Okay. I guess I'm just not familiar what type of tetra they are. And yes, Seagrass is very cool. They're probably one of the oldest freshwater wholesalers I've dealt with. And they're cool because they have some saltwater stuff too. So if I have a need for both, it can both ride along on the same shipment. Cocos Blue Tetra. Okay, I'm just not familiar with it by that name. Let me look it up real quick. See if my laptop can handle multitasking here. Cocos Blue Tetra. Purple Emperor Tetra. Those I have heard of. Yeah, those are pretty cool, but like not always available on the list. Interesting. Of course. Apparently I didn't turn down my ringer. Sorry about that. Let's see if I can do that now. There we go. Perfect. Well, I'm on the Wikipedia page for this tetra, and it says this species has most likely not been seen in the hobby for many years. So that might be part of it. God, it looks really familiar though. There's got to be another tetra that's a similar body shape. Almost looks like a Buenos Aires, but not quite as thick. That's interesting. happens to the best of us. Yeah. I'm actually surprised my phone hasn't been ringing more. Usually I'm getting notifications, text messages, a little bit of everything, so. What's that? Any game. Yeah, so almost a similar body shape to the Buenos Aires Tetra. That's probably why it looked familiar to me. Just different colors. I definitely like the blue ones better. Alright, back to this. Orange Von Rios, yes, those are cool. I like those. For a smaller Tetra, you know, schooling, relatively peaceful, that's a very good choice. I like those a lot. Any plans for an auto water change system? Probably not. As much as I'm not super excited about doing all the water changes manually, I don't think I want to drill everything and have the drip system or, you know, anything like that. I like to be more in control. I guess it scares me a little bit because I have so much other stuff down here in the basement. Not only my fish stuff, but the wife's stuff is literally on the other side of this wall. She does 31 and, you know, has a lot of crafts and other things like that. So if water was to ever be an issue and I ruined her stuff, it wouldn't be good. So, you know, doing all the water changes manually, I don't mind. As of right now, with only the one rack, it's really not that bad. If I get to the level of what you have in your garage, I might be singing a different tune, and we might be doing an auto water change video on how everything gets put together. But as of right now, I don't see myself doing that. Rogue Aquatics, hey, how's it going? Thanks for stopping by. What's my favorite strain? We talking guppies? Because my favorite guppies, as of right now, is definitely the Nebula Steel. You know, I like those guys a lot. The variation in the patterns, and even sometimes the color. You know, I've got the ones that are showing more blue, and then I got these guys up here. Let's see if I can spin you around here. Maybe? Possibly? Yep. These guys are showing, it's hard to tell because the camera doesn't pick it up perfectly, but they have other colors mixing in through the body, which is pretty neat. And down here, these guys tend to be more the blue in the body, and then there's kind of some differences in the tail. They seem like they're showing similar colors, but these guys, they definitely look more blue in the body themselves. Let's see, back up a little bit. There we go. So, let's see. Yet only one rack. Yeah, I only have one rack at the moment. Definitely going to be doing more eventually because I have a lot more different things I want to work with. Even simple stuff like mystery snails and shrimp. Don't even get me started on shrimp. I'd love to start playing with those guys, and they seem like a lot of fun to breed, and you know, different color morphs and stuff like that. Have platies and zebra danios in the 55-gallon in the other room. Very cool. The danios, even though it's such a simple fish, you know, if you get up close and you truly start appreciating the colors, that's actually a cool-looking little fish in their own right. All aquariums seem heated. How handle the wattage load? How do I handle the wattage load? Well, I try to keep the heaters on, like I have 3 different circuits I'm using down here. Not all the heaters are on at the same time. For a little while I was using a heater to help bring the temp up just down here in this space because we were running, you know, negative 10 degrees Fahrenheit for a while, like it was as much as a week and a half. I was starting to get frost around the edges of the where the foundation meets the base of the house. Frost was creeping over, so it was actually getting pretty cold down here. But, you know, it stays warm enough, and by these being so close, they, you know, one tank helps keep the body, you know, the mass of water
warmer. So not all of them are running at the same time. So the heaters are on one circuit. I have my air pump on a totally separate circuit, so there's no chance of that tripping and losing my air to the whole room. And then I have other things on different circuits as well. So it's, for right now, it's managing. I haven't tripped any breakers due to anything fish related. Usually it's, let's see, my well pump, and there's one other big thing I have down here. Oh, I have a sump pump that's connected to a utility sink. If the well pump and that start running at the same time for any length of time, it'll actually trip the circuit. So I need to move stuff around for that as well. Many years ago, worked for a wholesaler in Connecticut. Asian imports not so good, European better. Yeah, the Asian stuff is hit or miss sometimes. I find, like you said, that most of the European stuff tends to do a lot better. They are so pretty. Yes, they are. I love those guppies. They're very, very cool. Seagrass got some awesome imports from Russia. The Epistos were phenomenal. I bet they were. I saw a couple of pictures that she might have posted when the Epistos came in. I didn't realize they were from Russia, but that's very cool. Getting 15 more tanks soon. Libearers galore. Oh boy. That sounds like fun. They're cool. Started with guppies and one aquarium. Half a year later, I had 8 aquariums. Multiple tank syndrome. Oh, and you're only 14. Very cool. It's a very awesome hobby to get into at a young age. Glad to see more young people getting into it. Oranda Danda, thanks for the super chat, buddy. You are my first ever super chat, actually. This is my first time I've done a live stream since, I think it was like 500 subs, let alone 1,000, so very cool. Thanks a lot, man. Yeah, I got my, love the channel. Thanks, I appreciate it a lot. Glad you enjoy it. My 120 I had in the living room, and then when I ended up getting the chance to get that 180, it was like, oh man, where do I put this 120? Because space is at a premium in my house. I really don't have much in the way of square footage, so to add another 6 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot tank in the living room just wasn't going to work to have both. So I managed to muscle up my 120 into my son's room up the stairs, and he came home from school that day and he went to his room and he didn't really notice there was a different tank in the living room. You know, after school, one-track mind, I have to go sit on my TV for a few minutes at least. He got up in his room and all of a sudden he's like, oh my god! And I'm like, whoa, what's the matter? Where did this fish tank come from? I'm like, oh, that was the one downstairs. He's like, oh, it's so awesome! So that, you know, to see young people getting excited about fish, that I can relay that over to my kids and have other young people to get into it, that's very cool. You're using my rack design as well. Oh, very cool. I can't take credit for the rack design. I think I even mentioned that in the video when I was doing the building the rack video. This I copied from, oh god, what was his name? Ted Judy, I think. I don't know if he was the original creator of it as well, but if I'm not mistaken, it was one of his videos that I saw the whole design on, as far as having your horizontal tuck into your vertical and you notch that out. Because basically this space, I only had just enough room to fit exactly that. I wanted, you know, I wanted 5-10 gallons to fit. And, you know, the only thing that sticks out on either side is the skinny width of a 2x4. So when I found that design and found out it was strong enough to handle it that way, I was super excited. This is the first live stream I've caught, but I should be at work, but homesick. I guess you don't have a schedule for streaming since you're quite the busy guy. Yeah, pretty much. Like I said, I think this is only my third live stream ever. And I mentioned it's tough because the kiddos are home a lot, and I don't have a quiet space to be able to get away and do live streams. You know, by the time I get done with work, I'm there to help them when they get off the bus and, you know, do school stuff. Then the wife gets home, we do dinner, you know, and by the time the kids are settled and I have time without the kids, I usually like to spend some time with the wife, and, you know, it's 9 or 10 o'clock before we're finally, you know, like, all right, well, we're done for the day. I don't have enough time. So if anything, it's usually going to be during the day like this, For me, it's, you know, early morning, and it'll be middle of the day soon enough, but that's probably the only time I'd really have to do a live stream like this, when I have a free day or a light day. Going 3 rows high. Oh, very cool. So are you doing 3 rows and then a bottom row? Because, let's see. I have, technically, 3 rows. It's just the bottom row I ended up doing just right on the floor on 2 thickness, I did double thickness of foam board. And the reason I did this is because I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do down here. I knew the 220 highs would fit, and they were cheap enough, and that was fine. I wanted the bigger tanks because I knew I wanted to do some angels, and I wasn't quite sure what was going to be in the other one. But I can also take this 75, and that 75 will fit down there too. So I have a lot of flexibility, and if I really wanted to, I could do a whole nother row of 10s, and I actually have enough space. The rack is far enough away from the wall that if I wanted to do maybe 15s, I could probably fit 15s back there too. So that was the whole goal for that. The next one I'll probably end up doing just literally 3 rows of 20s, if not maybe try to squeeze in a 4th, so we'll see. Just love this live stream. Well, very cool. I'm glad you guys are having fun. Hey everyone, first time tuning in live, but just lurking and working in the fish room. Hope everyone's having a good day. Well, hey, thanks Aquariums Anonymous for stopping in. Hope you're having a good day as well. Have some of those angels trying to get a pair. Nice, very cool. That's my hope too. I got 11 of them. So with any luck, out of 11, I'm hoping I get a decent pair out of the mix, if not maybe 2. Going to make a rack as well when I have the money for it. I think it's 30 gallons I want though. So you're going to do 30-gallon tanks, like 30 breeders, or the standard like 30 long. The rack is definitely the way to go. I mean, in this, I think it's 50 inches, 52 maybe, I forget the exact dimensions. So in this 52 inches, let's say for just whatever, times depth I think is 22 by the time everything's calculated, or 20, this morning I don't remember too much. Anyway, so roughly a little more than 4 feet, 22 inches front to back, I'm fitting 12 tanks. And if I did another row of 10s, it would have been 15 tanks. So to be able to fit that many tanks into such a small square footage, you can't do that any other way. It's just it seemed like a no-brainer to fit everything all and, you know, stack it up on each other. It just seemed like the way to go. And as far as the cost, the tanks can be expensive if you're buying new. Depending on what you do for lighting, it can be expensive. But all the lumber, I recycled that. I ended up getting a bunch of 2x4s from some friends that were demoing a room. So they were just studs, literally. So I was able to repurpose all the lumber, so the lumber didn't cost me a dime. Sponge filters can add up, heaters. I end up doing a heater in every tank, so that can add up, obviously. If your room is warm enough, you know, a lot of people heat their fish room versus heating the individual tanks. For me, it's just not practical in this basement. I'd have to actually make a room down here and insulate it and then heat the room for that to be more cost effective than just trying to keep the tanks warm, unfortunately. Only got 5, all they had left. Yeah, I mean, lucky for me, I order wholesale, so I tell them how many tanks I want, and they deliver. That was the perks. And of course, wholesale pricing too. It helped out a little bit. Notice that Tazwa Tanks uses a curtain for sectioning off his fish room. Don't know how insulating it would be, however. Yeah, I have...
see there, I have a heavy thermal blanket hanging in the doorway that goes to this section of the basement. The problem is the rest of this area still allows air in. So maybe in the summertime when I have more time and it's warmer out, I'll end up pulling out a lot of the stuff down here and maybe trying to wall it off a little bit better. But also too, I have just literally concrete foundation walls. So, you know, you put your hand on that and that's kind of cool to the touch comparatively everywhere else. So to really insulate it well enough is going to take a fair amount of money and time. And to get the fish room up and running, that wasn't practical. I had to focus on the, you know, the tank rack and getting some livestock and things like that. So not really sure the 120 liters since I'm Swedish. I guess it's 30. Tank is 30 inches long, 16 inches high and deep. Oh, that's kind of a cool size. Probably do 2 rows, 3 tanks on the side. Maybe I could use 1 good light for 3 tanks. Oh, absolutely, for sure. I mean, I made 4-foot DIY LEDs. You can make them any the length you want. I still have to make that video. I know I said that a while ago. I use the roll LED strips basically, and then you have a power pack that you can power up to, well, depending on the size of the pack. I got the packs that can drive up to 16 feet of this LED strip. So in each LED or each light, I have 2 4-foot strips of the cool white, and you know, so what, 8 feet worth per strip. So I have 3 strips, and I got 2 power packs, and it drives all 3. So. But you can make those any length you want, any brightness you want to a degree. You know, if you wanted to run 3 or 4 strips, if you're getting more heavily into plants, or you only wanted to run 1 because you wanted just the bare minimum to light things up. You know, that's the neat thing about the DIY stuff, is you kind of can pick and choose and figure out how bright or not bright you want it to be. I guess you would lose some space then too, having to add insulation. Yeah, that would be the thing. If I had to put, you know, stud wall and insulation, I would miss out on some of that space. You know, none of this is really ideal down here. I'm a master of working with what I have. You know, just trying to make do as opposed to have a relatively small project turn into just an astronomical huge one. And I don't have the funds to make all that happen, so. Sounds interesting. Lights here in Sweden are insanely pricey, so I guess I want to see that video when it comes in. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know what you'll have in the way of access to those LED strips, but I mean, I got them right off of Amazon, literally, so maybe available in your area and hopefully not too expensive. I think I got a, what was it, 16-foot roll. Was it 16 feet? I think, yeah, 16-foot roll. And it was like 10 bucks for that roll. So you need the power pack. The power pack, I think, was another 10 to 15, depending on how big the power pack was. And then maybe some wire and connectors. Like I said, I'll do a video on it. By the time you're done, depending on how bright or not bright, it may end up costing about the same as an entry-level cheap LED fixture. I just liked it because I could pick and choose the colors and what I wanted to use, and you know, to do 3-4 foot fixtures, even the cheap ones, it worked out to more money than what I paid to make this happen, and I still have a ton of extra parts and pieces left over because I ended up buying way too much because I wasn't quite sure. This is the first time I messed with those LED strips, so I just kind of bought extra of everything, and, you know, one type of this, one type of that, not knowing exactly what I'd want, so. Exact same way. My lumber was recycled from a basement renovation. Yes, that that helps when you can find recycled, you know, stuff that people are just going to throw away. You're like, oh, you got plywood? Oh, you got insulation? Oh, you got some 2x4s? Perfect. Yeah, just load in the back of my truck. That'd be great. Thanks. Losing that 6 inches for wall insulation and drywall would be so worth the warmth. It could be. The downside is the cost to do it, the upfront cost. How long would it take me to recoup that investment in electrical savings, if any? because, you know, space heaters aren't exactly the most efficient in terms of electricity. My electricity rates suck up in New Hampshire. Sorry to be blunt, but it's bad. Right now my electric bill is way more than I'd like it to be. And it's not even because of the tanks. You know, I've got a lot of other stuff going on, kids and lights being left on and Xboxes and et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, I don't know, you know, if it took me 2 years to recoup that money, it'd kind of be a tough sell. Because again, I'd lose the space, so I couldn't have as many tanks. I don't really, you know, this isn't a living space down here. It's more storage. We have our laundry down here. You know, I do my fish room, and I have storage for my business, you know, all the parts and pieces and buckets and everything else I need. So it doesn't need to be heated. The main floor and the second floor are our living spaces, and we have a wood stove, and that keeps everything just toasty warm. Can't even find the cheap ones here. We have the Stingray for $20, or maybe it's called something else. Can't even find lights at twice that price. Wow, yeah, that's tough. With any luck, the DIY stuff will be an option for you. I'm in a t-shirt, so it can't all be all that cold down there anyway. Well, let's show you here. Look. Down the bottom, we got 61 on the floor and 66 up by the ceiling, and that's without any extra heat. So just my barrels of water that get heated, the tanks themselves, and just having the curtain up. There's definitely a temperature differential. Once you cross through that curtain, just the warmth of the tanks, it's enough to make it probably about 5 degrees warmer in this space. So, yeah, but I'm pretty cold hardy. You know, I go outside in just a long sleeve shirt when it's like 20 degrees outside. So it's I'm kind of used to the cold. Well, actually, now that I think of it, I might have missed someone's comment. Somebody asked what I was using for lids. It only just now hit me. I think I saw that when I was scrolling through. These are literally just the glass canopies that are available from the tank manufacturer. So usually it sits on your tank when you're looking at the front of the tank like this. Your handle's over here. It's got a plastic hinge, and you got your back plate that you can cut out for a filter, or, you know, cords or things like that. So I just simply turn it on end. I got the handle in the front here that I can use to open and close, and I keep this pretty much intact and just have it enough for the cord for the heater and then the airline tubing to come through as well. And it works out great. You know, having it be completely sealed for the most part, I really don't have any evaporation issues. You know, I do so many water changes anyway, it's not really a problem. But, you know, there was a couple of times where I went actually a week or two without a water change due to just other things being crazy. And I just didn't really even have any evaporation to speak of. So it's been nice. I like them a lot. I've seen a lot of the DIY canopies, but looking into it and then, you know, having to cut them and, you know, make sure they're the right size, and it just seemed like hassle. That, again, I ordered wholesale, so when I ordered the tanks, it was just put glass canopies on there for everything, and it worked out good. Speaking of, get them all closed again so I'm not losing evaporation. Gotta go, Jay. Good stream on my way to work. LFS grind. Very cool. Well, thanks a lot for stopping by, man. We'll catch you later. And speaking of, I think we're going to wrap it up. I haven't realized it, but we've been on here for almost 2 hours.
My stomach's grumbling a little bit, which is telling me it's close to lunchtime. So I think I'm going to finish up down here and go start the rest of my day. Thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in and stopping by for this kind of a once-in-a-great-while live stream. I appreciate everybody that tuned in and said hello. Very cool. So, yeah, we'll catch you guys later.